Hi guys, so today I'm going to be sharing with you what we had for dinner, which is ropa vieja. This is the top of meat that I used. You want to cut it into pieces, and these are some of the ingredients you're going to need. Once the meat is cut, I added my chopped parsley, garlic, and half an onion. So I'm getting all the little pieces out from my blender. And this is a manual blender, so I'm kind of just gonna mix it by hand and it cuts it. So now I'm gonna go ahead and add the seasoning after I washed my hands. You wanna add a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of black fine pepper or any pepper you have at home, and you want to add some ginger. So I kind of eyeballed it, but it's about a teaspoon of ginger and a teaspoon and a half of cumin. That gives it a really nice kick and flavor to it. Now I'll go ahead and add the salt. And adobo. Again, I kind of just eyeball adobo. It's about a teaspoon as well. And I added like a pinch or half a teaspoon of oregano. You might add a full teaspoon if you like. The flavor to me is too strong because I'm also adding thyme. Now the thyme, I left it in its own strings because I will remove it by hand once the flavor is out. You want to squeeze half a lemon. Squeeze, you must get all the juice out. And now I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of olive oil. If you guys notice, I didn't add a lot of oil, and that's because the beef already has some fat in it and it will release its fat. I'm trying to reduce from the oil in my cooking, so I kind of depended on the fat from the beef. You want to sear it a little bit so it gives it a nice color. I have olive oil again. Once the oil is heated, you add your chunks of meat and you just want to brown them from each side. Make sure you don't burn them. And you're not cooking them through, you're just browning from each side. So you flip as you go. As you can see, I'm ready to flip it. Now on a instant pot, I have the rest of the marinade, and I'm placing my meat that I browned. I'm adding all the chunks in. Once I have all my chunks, remember that bowl that we used to marinate the meat? I added warm water, and I'm using all the rest of the seasoning. That's flavoring. You don't want to toss that away. I'm getting all the onions and the garlics on the side, and I'm adding it into the Instant Pot. Now I'm ready to cover it. Oh, before I forget, I almost forgot. You have to add a bay leaf. So add 1 bay leaf to your Instant Pot with the meat. Now we're ready to cook it. Close it. Click on meat/stew, and you want to cook it from about 40 minutes or an hour depending on your meat. It took an hour for my meat, and I'm ready to shred it. Once you shred it, it would look like this. Again, I'm just searing it. I did this for about 5 minutes or less. And I'm ready to add my broth. So remember that water that we added to the Instant Pot, we are saving that. We're not throwing that away. That's all flavor. So you add the broth to the meat. And I'm picking up the onions and the garlic that was in there. And I'm gonna go ahead and remove the bay leaf from the pot. Now I'm adding tomato paste and tomato sauce. I did 2 spoons of tomato paste and 2 spoons of tomato sauce. I like adding a little bit of the broth with my tomato, and I just gonna mix it. It makes it smooth for me. It makes it easy to mix with the meat. So as you guys can see, it's kind of runny, so it will make your job easier. I'm adding cilantro and I'm adding garlic. I'm incorporating all this nice flavor to the meat. I'm adding an onion. Remember we used half an onion earlier, so I'm using the other half right now. If you want more onion, then go ahead and use a full onion. This is just fine for my family. So I'm incorporating, mixing, making sure all that tomato is spread out. And I'm kind of also folding the meat in. It smells so good in the house right now. I'm adding a little bit more of the broth. I noticed it was getting a little bit dry, so I'm adding more broth. And you want to lower your heat and let it simmer for 10 minutes. Making sure all the tomato is well incorporated again. And I lowered the heat. And I'm going to let it simmer for 10 minutes. You just want to cook down the onions a little bit and the tomato. After 10 minutes, I added olives. Mix it all together. Now, while you're waiting for the meat to cook, you can make your rice and black beans, and that's what I did. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add 1 spoon of vinegar to the meat, and that's gonna balance out the tomato sauce. So anything that you cook with tomato sauce or tomato paste, you wanna add a little bit of the vinegar, and just kind of balances out the acid in it. Mixing that vinegar, and actually that's it. It's ready to be served. I was so excited to make this dish. We had no leftovers. I served it with a side of rice, beans, and avocado. It was so good. We enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoy it too.